My mother's words sliced through the room like a blade, her voice echoing over the clinking glasses and soft jazz at my father's birthday dinner. For a split second, every conversation died. Dozens of faces turned toward us, some friends, some colleagues, many family, every one of them pausing mid-bite, their curiosity morphing into a cocktail of discomfort and intrigue. But my mother wasn't done. She turned to face her phone, which was propped on the edge of the table, streaming the entire scene live on Instagram. The tiny red live icon in the corner burned into my vision. Across the table, my younger sister Anna, influencer, darling of our parents, and self-proclaimed creative genius, flashed a smug, victorious smile. I could practically hear her thoughts. Finally, she said it out loud. I felt a heat crawl up my neck, but my hands stayed steady on my lap. I've spent most of my life perfecting the art of hiding my true reaction, especially from my family. There would be no scene, no tears. Not from me. I just stared back at my mother as if I were studying her for the very first time. You might wonder what it's like to be publicly humiliated by your own mother. With hundreds watching online, it doesn't hit you all at once. It's slow, like sinking into freezing water. A numbness that starts at your skin and works its way into your bones. The guests around us averted their eyes, murmuring, pretending not to have heard. Anna leaned forward, still beaming, and whispered, "Maybe you should just let me handle the speech. Soph, people care more about authenticity than whatever it is you do." Her tone was syrupy, cruel, and she knew exactly how deep it would cut. Let me back up for a second. My name is Sophia Mitchell. I'm 32. A real estate attorney in the Bay Area. First-generation American. And according to the narrative, my mother likes to share the responsible one. I built everything I have from scratch. I worked my way through law school with 2 jobs and graduated with honors. My parents, Linda and Thomas, own what used to be a successful small business, Mitchell's Cleaners, one of the first Asian-owned laundromats in our city. Back when they first immigrated here, we grew up on the edge of possibility and pressure. Always told to reach for more, but reminded constantly that family comes first. Anna is 27, the golden child, whose biggest achievements are always celebrated, no matter how trivial, whose every failure is softened, glossed over, or blamed on someone else. My parents poured hundreds of thousands of dollars, literally more than $250,000, into Anna's creative projects over the years. Her YouTube channel, her NFT collection, her failed podcast, her TikTok wellness brand. Each time it crashed, my mother would look at me and say, "Sophia, you just don't understand how hard it is for creative people. Your world is black and white, Anna's is full of color." That night, as the live comments scrolled, and some supportive, some shocked, some laughing at the family drama, I finally realized something. I'd spent my entire life waiting for the moment my parents would see me as enough. But public humiliation wasn't the breaking point. It was the permission I needed to stop playing by their rules. But before you judge, let me take you back to the beginning. Because every quiet revenge story has its roots. And mine. Mine started long before I ever stepped foot in a courtroom. Growing up as the older daughter in the Mitchell family taught me lessons most kids never have to learn. I knew, before I even hit double digits, that fair didn't mean equal. My parents loved to say, "We give both our girls everything they need." But somehow, I need always looked a lot more like want when it came to Anna. When I was 10, I won the regional spelling bee first place. A shiny gold medal on a blue ribbon. I raced home. Breathless. Ready to show my parents. My mother barely looked up from her phone. "That's nice, Sophia," she said. Already scrolling through Instagram. Checking Anna's latest art post. Anna, 7 at the time, had drawn a lopsided rainbow at summer camp. My mother framed it, hung it in the living room, and posted it online with the caption, "So proud of my talented baby." Neighbors came by to see the masterpiece. My medal stayed in my backpack for weeks. It didn't stop there. Every birthday, every holiday. The pattern was obvious. For my 13th birthday, I got a secondhand bike and a card with a $50 bill. Anna's 13th. A surprise party at a fancy karaoke bar. A new iPhone. And a shout-out from her favorite YouTuber that my parents paid for behind the scenes. I learned to smile. To say thank you. To swallow disappointment like medicine. If you're wondering why I didn't just leave, why I didn't cut them off sooner, well, you have to understand. Children don't stop hoping for love. Even when hope feels impossible. I spent most of my teenage years pushing myself straight as debate, team captain, scholarships. I paid my own way through college. Working nights at a Vietnamese restaurant and then interning at a legal clinic by day. Anna floated from art classes to fashion school. Then dropped out to pursue her brand. Each time she failed. My parents called it a learning experience. Each time I succeeded, they called it expected. Still, I tried. I brought home awards, letters of recommendation, even published a research paper in law school. My parents smiled, nodded, then told everyone at church how Anna was finding herself. Even our relatives learned the script. At family gatherings, my uncle would clap me on the back and ask if I was still stressed out from work. Before turning to Anna, "So, when is your next launch? Your mom sent us your website, very impressive." It was around this time that I realized being the invisible daughter came with one hidden advantage: I could build my own life without interference. While Anna asked for help money, connections, bailouts, I learned to thrive alone. I saved every penny. After law school, I rented a tiny studio in Oakland and used a Craigslist futon as my bed for nearly a year, just so I could put away a down payment. By my late 20s, I'd bought my first condo. My parents barely reacted. Anna, she got a luxury apartment in the Mission District, funded quietly by my parents, so she could focus on her art without stress. But it wasn't just money. It was attention, respect, validation. At every family milestone, Anna was the headline act. I remember my own graduation. My parents couldn't make it because Anna had a pop-up art show that same weekend. I stood outside the auditorium, watching classmates take family photos with bouquets and banners, while my phone buzzed with a text. "Sorry, honey. Anna needs us. We'll celebrate soon." Looking back, I see all the warning signs. The missed birthdays. The subtle digs. The way Anna learned she could always come first. And I learned not to ask for anything. It would be years before I recognized what all those small injustices were teaching me. How to fight. How to wait. How to make plans no one saw coming. And then came the day when the pattern changed forever. But I'll save that for a little later. Because understanding what happened next means understanding how deep the wounds went and how long I'd been collecting them. If you asked my parents, they'd tell you our family is close. We always support each other. My mother loved to say to anyone who would listen. Especially when Anna's career stalled or another of her businesses quietly failed. But support in our house was a one-way street. By the time I turned 30, my career had reached a point most people only dream of. I was named in a 30 Under 30 feature by a respected legal magazine. My firm hosted a reception in my honor, senior partners, colleagues, even a couple of city council members showed up. I invited my parents and Anna months in advance. I sent calendar invites, emailed reminders, even sent my mom the event program in a group chat. On the big night, I scanned the room for their faces. I checked my phone, no new messages. At the last minute, a text came in from my mother. Sorry. Anna's livestream NFT auction starts tonight. She needs our support. Can you take pictures for us? I stood on the stage, clutching my glass plaque, smiling for photographers, while the people who mattered most watched Anna sell digital art to a handful of strangers on the internet. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe my parents were just proud in their own way. Maybe they showed love differently. But the next morning, scrolling through Instagram, I saw my entire extended family posting on Anna's livestream, cheering her on. So talented. Our superstar. I scrolled past my own post about the award. 2 likes. One from Jenna, my best friend from work. One from Mrs. Baker, my mentor at the firm. It was more than being invisible, it was erasure. And things were about to get worse. When Anna's projects began failing one by one, as they always did, my parents got desperate. They dipped into their retirement to cover her losses. When that ran out, they started borrowing against their business. Then, quietly, they asked me for help. Just a small loan to tide us over. My father said on a call, until Anna's NFT project turns a profit. That small loan was $50,000. I said, no. Within a month, I discovered a new line of credit in my name, $120,000. Opened by my parents. Co-signed with my social security number. The documents arrived at my office. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I flipped through the paperwork. Seeing my name printed next to theirs. Forged signatures. My own family had committed financial fraud. Right under my nose. I called my parents. Voice trembling. My mother denied everything. You must be mistaken. Maybe it was a bank error. My father tried guilt. We raised you. Gave you everything. Don't you trust us? Anna said nothing. She sent me a meme of a girl rolling her eyes. Captioned, "It's not that deep." 4 days. I barely slept. I gathered every document, every email, every suspicious transaction. I went to Mrs. Baker, my mentor, my anchor who immediately spotted the red flags and called her friend in financial crimes at the district attorney's office. Together, we started building a file. Evidence of every unauthorized loan, every transfer to Anna's failed projects, every late-night Venmo payment to cover an emergency. Meanwhile, the emotional pressure at home escalated. My mother called me cold, accused me of trying to break up the family. Anna posted cryptic TikToks about toxic siblings and unsupportive relatives. Friends from childhood sent me links, asking, "Is this about you?" The comments were brutal, even at work. It followed me. My parents emailed my boss, asking for a character reference for Anna's new business plan. Sophia can be so rigid. My mother wrote, Maybe you can help her be more open-minded. All of this would have been enough to break most people. But I'd learned something from a lifetime of being the afterthought patience. I didn't explode. I didn't beg. I kept collecting evidence. Every screenshot. Every text. Every call log. I even started recording our conversations. I'd spent my whole life being the responsible one. Now, that responsibility was my shield. What my family didn't know was that every small betrayal, every slight, every theft, was laying the groundwork for something much bigger. And when the time came, I wouldn't raise my voice. I'd simply let the truth speak for itself. But before I get to how the truth finally came out, you need to know the moment I found the final piece of the puzzle, the one that changed everything. I'll never forget the day I found the last piece of evidence. It was a Tuesday morning, cloudy. Unremarkable. Just another day on autopilot. I was already running late, sorting through my work bag for a missing file, when I saw an envelope wedged between old receipts. It was from my bank. Marked urgent. Dated 2 weeks prior. I almost tossed it. But something, maybe a hunch built over a lifetime of disappointment, made me open it. Inside was a notice my credit score had plummeted due to several missed payments on a business loan I never took. My heart pounded as I scanned the details. The borrower, Anna Mitchell. Co-signed by Linda and Thomas Mitchell, with my name forged on every signature line. That was it. The moment the slow, burning suspicion crystallized into cold, hard reality. I called Mrs. Baker, my mentor. Immediately. She listened quietly, then told me to bring everything: emails, letters, even the social media posts. When I arrived at her office, she was already waiting with Jenna, my closest friend and another attorney at the firm. We spent hours organizing the mountain of evidence: screenshots of my mother's manipulative texts, transaction histories showing money funneled to Anna, even clips from Anna's live streams bragging about her funders. Jenna found a series of Venmo payments from my parents' account to Anna labeled loan from Soph, amounting to nearly $100,000 in less than a year. But the real bombshell came from Mrs. Baker's contact in financial crimes. He ran a quick background check and uncovered a much bigger problem. My family's business was already under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission. There were allegations of money laundering, fraudulent loans, and tax evasion dating back several years. Apparently, my parents had funneled hundreds of thousands of dollars from Mitchell's cleaners into Anna's influencer ventures, most of which never turned a profit. Some of those transfers were now flagged as potentially illegal. As if that weren't enough, the family business was months away from foreclosure. Their house was on the brink of being seized by the bank. And yet, even with the walls closing in, my parents continued to deny everything. They posted a GoFundMe campaign online, full of lies claiming I'd abandoned the family, refusing to help in their hour of need. Photos of me, cropped and filtered, showed up with captions like "Our daughter turned her back on us." Anna posted emotional TikToks, crying about toxic family members, racking up thousands of likes. It was surreal, watching my reputation disintegrate online, even as I assembled a case that would soon turn the tables. But I had what I needed now. I forwarded the file to the financial crimes investigator, added a personal statement, and began the painful process of freezing every joint account I could find. I also did something I never thought I would. I posted my side of the story anonymously on Reddit, laying out the facts, the documents, and the pattern of abuse. It blew up overnight. Thousands of strangers read it, commented, and many reached out to offer advice or share similar experiences. Suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore. My quiet revenge was beginning. And for the first time, I had allies I'd never even met. But if you think my family gave up without a fight, you're wrong. The next move was theirs. And it would drag all our secrets into the harshest spotlight yet. If you ever wonder what it feels like to have your entire family, your mother, father, and the sister you once loved show up at your door, desperate and terrified, I can tell you it's colder than you imagine. It happened on a Saturday afternoon, just after I got back from grocery shopping. I found all three of them waiting outside my apartment building. My mother's eyes were swollen from crying, her makeup smudged. My father looked 10 years older, clutching a folder of paperwork so tightly the edges were bent. Anna was in sweatpants and sunglasses, barely able to meet my eyes. "Please, Sophia, we need to talk," my mother said, voice trembling but rehearsed. I let them in. They sat on my couch, surrounded by silent tension and half-finished cardboard boxes. I just signed the papers on a new place, something I dreamed about for years. My mother started. "We made mistakes, but family is all we have. We need your help to save the house, the business, our future. We just need you to sign a few things, put your name on the mortgage. Help us refinance. We promise we'll pay you back." My father slid the paperwork across the coffee table, his hands shaking. Anna finally spoke. "I'll even work for you, Soph. For free. I just need a chance. Please. You know how much Mom and Dad are struggling. Don't abandon us." I studied their faces, faces that once meant home, now warped by desperation. For a long time, I said nothing. Then, quietly, I pulled out my phone and placed it face up on the table. "I'm recording this," I said, "for legal reasons." Their eyes widened. But I continued. "You want me to save you now. But where were you when I asked for help? When you used my name to take loans, run my credit, put me at legal risk? Where was this family when you watched Anna destroy her future again and again, using my money and my reputation to cover it up?" My mother started to cry again. My father looked away. Anna tried to reach for my hand. I pulled back. I opened the folder and flipped through their paperwork: mortgages, loan applications, business filings. Every page told the same story: a family drowning in debt, clinging to the one daughter they thought would always come to the rescue. But I wasn't that daughter anymore. "I've already contacted the Securities and Exchange Commission," I said, calm and steady. "The investigators have copies of every document you forged. The bank has been notified about the fraudulent loans. If you try to open another account in my name, I'll press charges." They were stunned into silence. "And there's more," I added. "I've shared my story anonymously. For now, with thousands online. People believe me. They know about Anna's scams, about the GoFundMe lies, about the business. I have every email, every text, every Venmo transaction. I even have video of Mom saying Anna is the only daughter that matters, broadcast to the world." Anna's face crumpled. My mother stammered. "You wouldn't really do this. We're family. You'll come around, you always do. But not this time. Family is earned, not owed," I told them. "And you've spent a lifetime making me feel like I was nothing. This is my boundary. You are on your own." I handed back the paperwork, untouched. My father's shoulders slumped. Anna began to sob. My mother whispered, "Please, we'll lose everything." I stood, opened the door, and said, "Then maybe you'll finally understand how it feels." As they shuffled out broken, defeated, I felt a strange peace settle over me. I hadn't screamed. I hadn't thrown anything. My revenge was quiet, methodical, final. That night, I uploaded my story with all the evidence to TikTok and Reddit, this time under my real name. The response was explosive. People from around the world offered support, shared similar stories, and called out my family's abuse for what it was. The GoFundMe was reported and taken down. Journalists reached out. The SEC investigation moved forward. My parents' business was officially seized within a month. Anna lost every brand deal. Their social media accounts were flooded with the truth. A few weeks later, I moved into my new apartment, a sunlit corner unit in downtown Oakland, overlooking the city skyline. I still woke up some mornings, expecting to see a barrage of angry messages or a knock at my door. But, for the first time in my life, silence felt like relief. The noise was gone. The blame. The guilt. The constant demand to be someone I wasn't. They had all vanished, replaced by a steady, calm. I decorated my new home with purpose. The diplomas my parents never attended ceremonies for, finally framed and hung on the living room wall. Photos of me with colleagues, friends, my mentor Mrs. Baker, and Jenna, the friend who stood by me when my own family wouldn't. I bought myself a new couch and spent an entire Saturday assembling it while blasting my favorite music, a freedom I'd never realized I was missing. Meanwhile, the fallout from my family's collapse spread like wildfire. Mitchell's Cleaners was seized by the government. The windows papered over. The sign taken down. Neighbors whispered about the investigation, about the daughter who had ruined everything. But more people reached out to offer support than I expected. The GoFundMe campaign my parents launched was not only shut down but publicly exposed by several financial crime blogs. Anna's TikTok and Instagram accounts lost thousands of followers overnight. Every time she tried to post a video about overcoming betrayal, commenters flooded in with screenshots of her lies and evidence from my original Reddit post. My parents sent dozens of messages, emails, voicemails, even a handwritten letter begging for forgiveness, asking for just one more chance. At first, I read every word, searching for remorse, for acknowledgement. But it was always the same blame shifted to me. Claims that I was ruining the family, that I had turned my back on blood. The apology I needed never came. So, I did what I wish I had done years ago. I blocked their numbers, deleted their emails, and returned the letter unopened. I realized, finally, that closure wasn't something they could give me. It was something I had to claim for myself. The legal case continued. The SEC moved quickly. The fraud was obvious, the paper trail unmissable. My parents eventually settled, losing nearly everything but a small rental unit they owned. Anna tried to pivot, rebranding herself as an authentic mental health advocate. But her past followed her. Former friends unfollowed. Brands cut ties. And, for the first time, she was forced to reckon with a world that no longer offered second chances. I found new purpose. My story, shared first anonymously, then in my own name, began to resonate with people across the country. Victims of toxic families, financial abuse, and quiet betrayals messaged me, thanking me for speaking out. I was invited to appear on a popular podcast about resilience and choosing yourself. For the first time, I didn't downplay my pain or try to sound humble. I spoke the truth, clearly and calmly. Quiet revenge, I told the host, isn't about destruction. It's about building the life you deserve, even if it means leaving everyone behind. I donated the money my parents had taken from me, over $100,000 in total, to a nonprofit that supports young adults escaping abusive homes. I became a mentor to several women at my law firm who came from similar backgrounds. With every step forward, the weight of my family's rejection lessened. But healing isn't linear. Some nights, I still dream of my mother's voice. Sharp and dismissive. I still flinch when my phone buzzes with an unknown number. There are holidays when I wonder what it would feel like to be welcomed home. Not out of obligation, but out of love. Still, the peace of knowing I am finally free is worth every pang of nostalgia. One day, scrolling through Reddit, I came across a post from someone whose story sounded almost exactly like mine, a sister always left behind. A family that only called when it was convenient. I reached out. We talked. Then met for coffee. There is a kind of kinship among those who survive family betrayal. A community of people who have learned the hard way that blood is not always thicker than water. Looking back, I don't regret how I handled things. There are people who will always call me the bad daughter, the ungrateful one. But there are far more who see me for what I truly am: resilient, resourceful, no longer invisible. The greatest revenge, I've learned, isn't in watching those who hurt you fall. It's in living your own life. Honestly, quietly, on your own terms. If you've ever been the invisible one in your own family, if you've ever waited for an apology that never came, ask yourself, what would you do with your freedom? Would you chase their love? Or finally love yourself? Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge is simply choosing to be happy loudly, unapologetically, and with no one's permission but your own. Months passed, but the shockwaves of my family's downfall continued to ripple through every corner of my life and theirs. The news of the investigation and the fall of Mitchell's Cleaners became a local headline for a while beloved small business shutters amid fraud scandal. At first, some old neighbors and distant relatives blamed me. Echoing my mother's words, Sophia was always so cold. Too American. But the truth spread quickly, helped by the public record and the digital breadcrumbs I'd left behind. I still remember the first time I spoke openly, using my real name, about everything that happened. It was on a podcast about surviving family betrayal. The host, a former therapist, asked me, "What would you say to someone who's afraid to set boundaries with their family?" I answered without hesitation. Boundaries, I said, are a form of self-respect, not an attack. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away quietly. If you can. Loudly if you must. The episode went viral. Listeners messaged me with their own stories: doctors, teachers, artists, even a few lawyers like me. Some had gone to contact. Others were still wrestling with guilt. A few people, including a young woman who had been secretly supporting her entire family since she was 18, wrote, "Your story gave me the courage to finally say no." That's the hidden power of quiet revenge. It multiplies. It becomes a beacon for those still lost in the dark, a map for those who don't know the way out. Around the same time, the nonprofit I donated to invited me to speak at their annual fundraiser. I stood at the podium, facing a crowd of hundreds, and told the story I once thought I'd have to hide forever. I spoke about growing up invisible, about learning to rely on myself, about the price of family loyalty. But I also spoke about kindness, the friends who became family, the mentors who stood up for me, the strangers on Reddit whose validation helped me reclaim my truth. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. For the first time in my life, I felt seen not as someone's daughter or the responsible one, but as a person with my own story, my own scars, and my own strength. Meanwhile, Anna vanished from social media for a while. When she returned, it was with a much smaller following. She tried to reinvent herself. First as a wellness coach, then as a recovery influencer. But the internet is a ruthless archivist. Old clips, receipts, and comments haunted every attempt at a comeback. Occasionally, I'd hear through mutual friends that Anna was still blaming me for everything that happened. But the difference was, I didn't care anymore. Her anger no longer had power over me. My parents moved out of state, trying to escape the cloud of scandal. I sometimes wondered if they regretted the choices they made or if, deep down, they would always believe the narrative they had built for so long. But I had my answer every time I opened another message from a stranger who just wanted to be believed. Or every time a former client called me for legal advice. Not because I was the good daughter, but because I had proven my integrity in the hardest way possible. As the months turned into a year, my life began to fill with new rituals. I hosted Sunday dinners with Jenna and her partner, inviting friends and colleagues who, like me, had learned the value of chosen family. I started mentoring younger lawyers from immigrant backgrounds, offering the support and guidance I wished I'd had. Sometimes, late at night, I would reread my own Reddit thread, the one that started it all, and marvel at how far I'd come. Every so often, a pang of sadness would hit me on holidays, birthdays, the odd Tuesday afternoon when I passed a family out together at the park. But I learned not to chase those feelings away. They were a reminder of everything I had survived, and proof that healing is an ongoing journey. One spring morning, as sunlight spilled across my kitchen, I received a card in the mail. It was unsigned, but the handwriting was familiar. Inside, 3 sentences. We hope you're happy. We're sorry for everything. Take care. For a while, I didn't know what to make of it. Maybe it was real remorse. Maybe just regret. Maybe it didn't matter. I put the card in a drawer with other keepsakes, a gold spelling bee medal, my first business card, and a photo of me, Jenna, and Mrs. Baker after my first speaking event. I closed the drawer and exhaled. There were new beginnings ahead. And for once, I felt ready for them. Reflection. If you're listening to this, maybe you see a piece of yourself in my story. Maybe you've been told to forgive, to keep the peace, to remember where you came from. Maybe you've wondered if it's worth the cost staying silent, staying small, for the sake of family. Here's what I want you to know. Your story matters. Your boundaries matter. It's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away. Family isn't just about blood, it's about respect, honesty, and love. That doesn't demand you shrink yourself to fit someone else's comfort. If you ever find yourself standing at the edge, unsure if you're strong enough to step away, remember this. The bravest thing you can do is choose yourself. Even if you have to do it quietly. I'm not invisible anymore. And neither are you.